front lines. And hey, honestly, surprisingly enough, the export is a little bit happier. This is still a tough game for a Lunox, and the lineup that has a Lunox and a Moskov together as your main damage dealers, that now it falls back to this 1-1 game for CW might actually be even better than the last one.
I'd say it's better for the export, worse for the Lunox, and that's weird because the export came in the draft first. So it seems like the priority
would already be kind of chunk low by the export, who would have full stacks, and the Moskov would just be chunking them out.
Well, we're going to find out if they can chunk it out or not. Jumping into the Land of Dawn again, game number 2 in this best of 3. Can Mongolia go ahead and even out this series? Again, it's a single elimination, so if this is a sweep by Indonesia, Mongolia will have to dip out of here for the WEC 2024 for Iesf. And similar things, you know, you're going to see this kind of fall into place in the early portion of the game, and I think once again, that is always going to have to be what we look to see if Mongolia can do. Can they get their footing early on? And even if they do that, like they did in the previous game, they've got a whole lot to deal with. And this time around, it is a Garakacha, which we have seen do so much for teams that draft this hero in, and with the Revitalize. So we could see a fight breaking out here this early on already, but it looks like they just post up. Mongolia will go ahead and get that Lith Wander and set things up again.
It's just a battle for the Lethal Wanderer. Bit of an advantage now, over towards Export. Sans getting quite low, good taunt over to Forbid. Albert's hovering over, Ethan putting some damage back on Sans again. Albert not level 4 just yet. Ethan will flicker out, respecting the possible instant level 4 that Albert can get.
Yeah, that's troublesome because again, you saw there, if Albert wanted to go ahead and Spear of Alpha, he probably could have caught him, but they decided to be a little bit more disciplined, take things in their favor where they can. And the fact that Ethan doesn't have a flicker right now, you know, it puts him in a kind of precarious situation even with this. So look at this, they're trying to go for Sans.
Last Insanity, flicker out from Sans. They bait out a big resource before Turtle 1 spawns in the game.
All right, again, objectively, the team that usually gets this first objective does kind of have that upper hand in the early game. They build through it. You could see both teams kind of going and trying to make the plays if they can. Mongolia has been the aggressor, I would say, throughout the series. A lot of the times, they've been trying to get the early advantage going on, but they've just got to go ahead and respond now. So Albert, he'll start up the turtle. Ethan gives the information. This could just be a situation where Mongolia maybe gives this away. Even not level 40 yet, so half health from the turtle.
They reset it. Kibo is so far away. Good penalty zone from Luke to stop him. Sans will be the one to pick up the turtle. Now as Ethan goes in for the healing Forbid. Jumps into the back line, but first blood will be claimed by Sans as Albert deals with Zixora, who did not have the Faraga armor. Now it's Aizen, all isolated. Has a demonic force. Brox to go for the Infernal Pursuit, but will be bursted down before he can even get this next one. Forbid in the mid lane now zoned away. And Indonesia pick up 3 free kills and a turtle.
Mirko, I know you saw it, the flicker forward coming out from Forbid, and then there was, you're waiting for the damage to come through, and then you're like, oh wait, it's not there. It's not there. It's not there for the Lunox, even against Sans trying to pull through. And even with that, they just got a whole lot in the hands of Indonesia off that first objective plus these kills. And this is what we always talk about. When this team, when Indonesia, their players get the advantage, they will not let up. Mongolia has shown us that they like to fight even when they're down. So they could still come out with a response from this, and that might mean that, hey, Ethan, now that he's got that level 4 available, he might be the one to start things up with the Raging Sandstorm. He had to burn his flicker earlier on, so they didn't really have many tools to be approaching that first objective. And once again, it's all about scaling. They're scaling.
Exactly.
We already got a preview of the damage. It's not there right now.
Nope. It really isn't. And that was the big concern, I guess, for Mongolia, right? Even though we see what they were going to do, what they can do with the composition, it relies heavily on mid to late. Luke, penalty zone in the bottom lane, unable to connect onto Aizen. Good spacing there. But back to the point, it's all about getting to mid to late, and I honestly feel like after losing its first turtle, they should try to respect Indonesia here. Second turtle onward, maybe look to go for some trades around the map, because if you just go and brawl it out against Indonesia with this big of a lead early on, it'll be very, very tough. You can already see Ethan put some damage down onto Albert, who wants to fight it out. He's an alpha who's a level ahead of the enemy jungle.
How do we feel right now about Khalid Rome? Is it only working for certain teams, certain players?
I don't know about Khalid Rome, man. It's literally just an initiation tool, and you want to buy a little bit more time too, technically, with the pick. But there's so much CC for Indonesia. When you heal up, you can't even heal. And this is going to be a free turtle over to Indonesia. No steal for Mongolia. They're just going to have to concede this, but there's no trades being made on the map by Mongolia. Indonesia are just doing what they want. Avatar the Guardian connecting now. Even Purify, the layering from Luke as he goes into the penalty zone in the back line, but Sixora plus 4 bits damage will be enough to deal with FCW. Pops in the Inspire, gets out. And Sixora will just have to burn out the last Insanity. They only lose Luke out for that.
They only lose Luke, but I'm also, you know, at least Mongolia punishes that, because that's a very aggressive play. Under the tier 2, under 5 minutes in, but they do this because they want this objective.
No Purify Garo, they were setting up for that, and now it all becomes worth it, losing Luke to burn out the Purify for them to dive and get a tier 1.
Almost there. Come on. Okay.
Okay, they want to save it.
They delayed a little bit. Eventually, that's going to go down. But yeah, it's all part of the plan, Mirko. Like, again, they initiated under the tier 2. They forced out some resources. They stay, they hang around, and then they capitalize it after that. So what ended up being, you know, not such a bad situation for Mongolia ended up being actually pretty bad. There's the turret going down as well. And so, as we were saying, you know, Indonesia will go ahead and continue to put pressure where they are able to find it. And right now, it's kind of all across the map. The next thing they're looking for here is the mid lane. If they can get the 3 for 3 on the turtles, seems to do that before too, where they don't go and they're not able to get any of the turtles, because the biggest obstacle in front of Mongolia right now is that zone that Indonesia is setting up.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about Sans. Like, just the fact that you have a Gatakacha and a Tarizla alone in the front line is why, again, they picked up, while we thought they picked up the Lunox to hopefully, you know, burst down one of these tanky guys, and they should be able to, but later on. I don't think they're quite there yet. But it looks like Mongolia, flicker burned.
Look at the targeting from Sans, always putting the Void Blast onto Zixora. Now, RWM, last incentive to be used, but he's going to be very, very low. Keyboy jumps into the Avatar, and again, it's CW, who's just wreaking havoc. Zixora backed away by Keyboy. He's the one who's zoning the Exborg. This is the pick to counter the Gatakacha, but Zixora, I don't know where he can go. Sans will be rotating as well. Keyboy will be the one to get the kill. Though it is traded, it is definitely worth it for Indonesia, 4-1.
Again, as I was asking before that broke out, is this the right moment that Mongolia wants to fight, to contest? No, it wasn't. That was not the fight you wanted to take, and now you get further into the hole that Indonesia has been building up. And you're going to find himself, even Albert, confident enough.
1v4, Albert. I don't know if you want to take this. The Chaos come through. Luke, penalty zone only onto Aizen. And it's Mongolia who have to back away from 2 members of Indonesia.
So they back away. Again, some resources are down here. Now the Malefic Gun picked up by CW. They'll go ahead and work in on these tier 2s. That's the next site for them in Mongolia. Like I was saying, they've got to kind of check themselves. You know, stop trying to force some of these fights for a little bit until you're ready for them, because even so, whether it's a Lunox, whether it's a Smozkov, they have not been able to find favorable fights. Look at this pressure here. Spear of Alpha already going to be used from Albert. Enough to go ahead and just put pressure enough to get these tier 2s. Even the Brilliance being used right now. And I'm sure Forbit's thinking, man, you know, was this the right pick for this lineup? Because they can't really do much but just to watch this. Good push, though. Trying to get something out of anything up top.
I don't know, though. They're going to get a tier 1, but I think for Indonesia, they're very happy trading the tier 1 for 2 tier 2s.
Shields popped as well.
Shields popped. Holy defenses already down for Mongolia. Luckily for them, I would still say they have pretty good wave clear. RWM to chunk them away, to try to zone them away, to try to take this turret without utilizing great raging sandstorm from Ethan, but gets bursted down. CW so he can kite away now. The last insanity gets used up. Luke uses the penalty zone to kite away, and they have been able to do it. Great kite back from Indonesia. 2 of the frontliners down, and it's in the perfect time for the Lord to spawn in the game.
Mirko, if they weren't down to 7,000 gold, that could have been different for Mongolia. It was probably the best initiation they could hope for after Indonesia started it, but they're just outgunned right now in terms of the items and economy. So that's an objective secured, a Lord secured for Indonesia. And if only Mongolia had a little more firepower in the exchange, they probably could have gotten a couple kills out of it. But like you mentioned, great kite back and just disengage from that fight, from that setup. You know, Ethan couldn't have hoped for a better Raging Sandstorm in that situation, but now they have to go and prep up. Can they defend this? We're under the 10-minute mark. The shields are already down. They were worked on earlier. Here's the Lord in the mid lane.
Let's see how to utilize it. Lord of the mid lane going to be able to charge into the base. CW getting rid of the Holy Defense up top, as that's going to be a Spirit of Alpha over to Xora. Taking the Faraga armor away. Also an RWM, interestingly, already used up. CW unable to get the turret in the mid lane, but it is already very, very low. The look towards the second empowered waves to try to get this turret down. Again, from Mongolia, they have pretty good wave clip. Penalty zone. Luke catching Ethan. Now the Avatar of the Guardian. They all just crash down onto Mongolia. It's still a lot of damage placed down. That's a shutdown. CW taking out, but look at Albert on this Alpha, who's an absolute monster at this point. A snowballing Spear of Alpha. As he goes in, Xora, even with the Faraga armor, will not be able to survive. Sounds of the poke, still trying to zone Garo away. 2 more base turrets to deal with.
2 base turrets left. They got a couple waves pushing in. 4 members right now. Indonesia, Luke picking up a Winter's Crown. They could possibly still look to push this in. They're going to have to clear the waves out. Rest of the members from Mongolia do come up. So right now, they hold on into this game at number 2. They don't want to get swept here. Making Indonesia work for this win. Once again, Mongolia trying to just hold things together. It's slipping out of their hands, though. 10,000 gold behind at this point. Really looking to see where this Lunox plays its part, plays its role. Yes, they defended. Yes, they're still in their base. They got 1 base turret. But is this the time? We're 11 minutes in. We already talked about that mid to late game for this lineup from Mongolia. But when you have a 10,000 gold deficit to work for, it gets even more grim. The fights here into the jungle.
Oh, CW still able to cut away now. Oh, the Demonic Force connects. CW will be chased down. Crossbow tang from CW to turn it around again. And the translation over from the crossbow tang over to Eisen as he goes in for the Infernal Pursuit. It'll be Albert in the mid lane together with Luke escorting this one melee minion. That's a penalty zone to bait out the Purify. Now the Spirit of Alpha as they go for the shred onto Garo. So many turret shots tanked away by Indonesia. But it's a given for this full tanky lineup. Now a taunt to take Morbid down. He will go for the Brilliance, but Mongolia will be knocked out from the ISF playoffs of MLBB. Indonesia move forward.
Indonesia, quick work here. Now game number 2, 12-minute mark, just under it. Able to close things out. And again, the panel talked about the draft, and I think that's really what showed the weak point here for Mongolia. They just weren't able to utilize the game plan that they came in here with. They